Hello, Harley.
Hi, Sven.
We're gonna do a duet together. Duet. Do I
A,
say it right?
I, a duet is
Duet?
kind of American. A
Yeah.
duet is.
Duet. I'm working on that. It's nice to see you. Where are you?
I'm in my front room. I've brought my piano with me. This is
Okay.
my dear friend. It was gifted to me, and it was born the same year as Salvador Dali,
Ah, I've
1904.
been in Caracas. Have you ever been there?
Ah, I
Ah,
dream of Caracas.
yeah, it's a lovely place. My
And
God, it was beautiful.
the boys selling the shells that they've been diving for.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
cool. But you're gonna sing me a song or play something or whatever you're gonna do. I'm
Yeah.
gonna mute myself.
Okay. So, in this time of shielding, some people can go out, some people can't. They're still at home. And I was thinking about all the things that money can't buy because we're all struggling right now. So this is all the things that money can't buy, and we have to remember. Can't buy blue sky, can't buy dignity, can't buy thought way linking you to me, can't buy new day, can't buy the sun's rays, can't buy a baby's hand clinging to my finger, can't buy spider webs glistening with dew, can't buy laughter or the sing songs in my head. But have you tried? 'Cause you're oh so la 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 rich jellyfish. You're oh so la 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 it's jellyfish, and we all want a piece of it. You can't buy a rainbow, can't buy the flicker of a smile, can't buy an angel's true deep slumber, can't buy a warm embrace, can't buy the twinkle in my eye, can't buy the peace that's in my mind, can't buy a teardrop whisper in the breeze, can't buy the turning of the leaves. But have you tried? 'Cause you're oh so la 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 rich as jellyfish. You're oh so la 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 empty out your pockets. There's always a little bit of love in there. Empty out your pockets. There's always a little bit of love. Empty out your pockets. There's always a little bit of love in there. Empty out your pockets. There's always a little bit of love. And we all want a piece of it. Can't buy blue sky. Can't buy dignity. Can't buy thought way
Lovely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Yeah. When I was, I should have met you when I was 7. And you could have sang the song for me because I would have disagreed with you. I would have said, no, no, you can't buy love and happiness and all that. I mean, when I was 7, I one of the things that I really loved doing was stand by a shop window where there was a lot of toys inside of the toy shop. I was just standing there, pressing the no yes, and just pointing out everything I would love to have, all these things. And there was one thing I knew I would never get because my father he was a working man in a factory, and my mother was sitting in her living room and making dresses, and it was always this money thing that they talked about, that they never had money and all that kind of thing. My sister was quite sick, so she was in the hospital. But I knew that I would never get the one that I really, really, really wanted. Really, like everything in my life was that if I just had that, I knew everything would be wonderful, wonderful. And that was a train. A train and the tracks, enough tracks to make a circle. And then, there was this, I don't know what you call it, transformator, is it called in Danish? It's kind of a box, and it has a red handle, and you can drive 160 kilometers an hour. It was like never 160 kilometers, but it sounded and looked very, very sort of very dangerous and everything. And I knew that if I just got that, I would be happy. There was a train in the front and 2 green wagons, and it was just, and when we were talking, the other guys were like all kinds of other things, but that train, I would just love it. So at Christmas Eve when I was 7, we were celebrating the Christmas Eve in the hospital because my sister was very sick. She had cancer in the leg and died later. But that year we were supposed to celebrate the Christmas at her hospital. And we had her out of it was like one room, and they went into a big room. There was the Christmas tree, and we were dancing around and had all these songs and everything. When we left home, I noticed my father had like a box, you know, the package with Christmas paper all around, and it fitted perfectly. But I couldn't believe it. I know, no, they were not, maybe? No. Yeah. I was like going back and forth in my mind. But then he came over with the package and then I saw it was to me, from my mom and my dad and my sister. And I opened it and it was that train. I tell you, I was happy. I was full of joy. I screamed out when I got it. And we were not in the big room. I think we were in her room, but I remember I was screaming. I was so excited, and I wanted to make it right there on the bed. And my father sort of, no, you can't really do that, but you can be on the floor here. And they raised my sister's bed so I could make it so it was. The circle was on, here was the bed leg, and I had it around that bed leg. So I was inside under the bed, because then I could get some electricity there, and I was just sitting there and driving back and forth, because the only thing you could do was sort of driving in this circle. But I loved it. I just loved it. To find out how much with 20, with 30, with 40 and 50 and going all the way up to 100. And no, back again. Yeah. It's like, oh. And then this sound when you could drive backwards, but you couldn't drive backwards with both. So I have to take one out away, so there was only one green one. And it was just, I loved it. But once in a while, that was the only sort of snake in the paradise, was that there was some of these nurses coming in, and they were all going like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, what? Yeah, Merry Christmas." Yeah, yeah, Merry Christmas. But I was like, why? Why did they have to do that? I was there with my train. And I just loved it. I was so happy. I was utterly happy sitting under the bed, driving with my train, just going back and forth. And I actually have the train. Still, it's here on the table here. It's just like this. It's actually quite obvious why I loved it so much, right? It is a beauty of a train. It's really, of course, it's a Mechlin train. So,
And
my
small.
story.
You only have one wagon when you reverse. So is that sensible?
It was quite low. What did you say?
One wagon
Yeah?
reverse, not two.
No?
So if you're going to reverse, you have to take care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and when you go in a circle like that, it's on 100, then it's sort of really, then it's dangerous. You can feel it, feel the danger inside the way. But no, back to 80. That's good. That's a good phase. It was lovely.
Great.
Woo.
Now there's a story about a train, a great story. So the I've got this song. Train arrived, hoo-hoo. Only 60 go to Soho. There's something about, so I'm seeing this train arriving down into South America, and all the things that the train track brings, and all the people suddenly becoming important, and the real things like the kids playing suddenly becomes, you know, another playing and showing off, and it's Gabriel Cortez Marquez, his story about the train arriving, 100 Days of Solitude.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And all the things that are brought with the train and all the things that are lost. So we're in that place again now, aren't we? Solitude and recognition of something. And I'm thinking of the wolf in Mexico that died out, and we're trying to bring it back. And I'm thinking about the old woman. Or is she old? Do I just think she's old? Have you seen her? Maybe you walk past. She has matted hair, it's dirty, it's tangled, she smells. She smells bad. And she walks like a sort of shuffle, as if every muscle in her bone aches. And she doesn't speak, she doesn't have words. She grunts and she snarls and she hisses. And one day, this woman, you're laughing at her. Don't laugh at her. This woman has a great yearning. And she goes into the streets, in the rubbish, in the trash, in the garbage. She goes under the cardboard boxes and the gutters, and she finds what she looks for, but she needs more. And she goes into the woods and into the forest, and she goes into the fields, And she, with her dirty, broken fingernails, burrows into the soil until she finds more of what she yearns for. And like you with your train, never give up, never give up. So she searches and she searches and she finds more and more of what she needs, and she gathers them and she goes back to the cave. And she went right to the very back of the cave, right to the very, very back of the cave, where it's as dark as a night with no moon and no stars, and as cold as a world without sunshine. And there, using her hands, she took each bone that she had found in the rubbish, in the gutters, in the field, in the soil, in the woods, in the forest, each bone. And she felt and nurtured and cleaned each bone and loved each bone tenderly and laid it out on the floor of the cave. And she put her whole being into the cleaning of each bone, and she laid them out until she had made a skeleton, and she felt her way through. And it was flesh, and it had organs, and it had skin, and it had fur, so soft. And she shook, and she snarled, and she hissed, and she growled, and the creature stretched and sniffed and found its way to the entrance of the cave. And as the sun kissed the tip of its nose, life force flooded through. And it ran, and it ran, and it ran, and it ran, and it leapt across rocks, and it swam through the rivers. And when it caught its breath, it took in the world with eyes bright, beautiful, wondering, and curious. And then it felt in its belly this laughter, this great, ancient, beautiful laughter. And it sang its howl. And at that moment, deep on the back of the cave came a woman. And she stretched. And she smiled. And she felt the power in her limbs. And she felt laughter weaving through her ribs. And as she came to the entrance of the cave and the sun kissed her cheeks, she began to sing. Yele! Yele! So I urge you, dear, dear friends, to listen to the wind and listen to your body and feel your way back to those ancient bones and learn from the bone woman and the wolf and find your animal and let it sing.
Wonderful. Love it. Oh, beautiful. made me do like this, where you just go, "Ah," and then suddenly she was coming, and she was so gorgeous. My goodness God, there was so much power in her. It was like, yeah, the world is right here, and I'm gonna take it in. Oh wow, what a story!
So that song, the song of the wolf woman, Loba, is, I think it's a Mexican story, the bone woman.
I've seen it as a Mexican.
There's bone women in many different cultures where you grind the bones and from the ancient you understand something new.
And then there was, and then up she went. And of course, it's a woman who's so old and so smelly in hair, and she's the one that brings this thing into life.
Yeah.
Can't be anything else. Wonderful, love it. Yeah, are you gonna sing a song in the end?
Yeah.
I would love that. But I have a story for you, and I actually went around the whole day yesterday. It was like, and I'm gonna give you a story from Denmark, and it's about the ferry. It's in Rødby, Rørvig. It's kind of about 70 kilometers from Copenhagen. So Rørvig is full of summer houses all the way up to the coast. Have this massive amount of summer houses. But in the 50s, when I was born, late 50s, you know, with the this, you know, Elvis Presley and all that, yeah, and all the girls shiny, and there was an innocence there. There was like, if you were engaged in someone, you were really engaged. It meant something in those days. Now it's just whatever.
I'm just going to plug my computer in. It's about to pass out. Hang on.
I think it's a very good idea.
Technical number 5, please.
That's so great, so cool. But what happened was, then the rich people from Copenhagen in the weekend and in the summer, they went up to Rørvig. And Rørvig was like a place for that. So you have this picture in your head, a lot of people from Copenhagen, a lot of people, local people, and then this ferry coming in 6 or 7 times a day with cars and motorcyclists and stuff like that. And in the late 50s, that's where we are. So the group of young people were gathering down by there was like a harbor for small sailing boats. That means that it's basically just like a path of wood, black wood, that was there. Like, and you could, the children were always fishing crabs, up and down into the bucket, down in the water, up again. It was like, they call it, yeah, it's exactly. And sometimes they make these rays with the crabs, going all kind of things. It's a fun thing to go for crabs. But in the evening, there were no families there. It was like, everybody had just had their dinner, and it was about 7 o'clock in the evening there. So the sun it was in midsummer. So the sun was really just low on the sky. And then there was this two groups of youngsters, the people from Copenhagen and the people from Rørvig. And there was something going on between Jakob. Oh, you should have seen him. My God, wow, he had this, boy, just boy. There was nothing else but boyish, and the charm, and he was good looking, he was handsome, he had this, as they all had in those days, like, we call it, yeah, exactly, it was beautiful. He was handsome. And there was Kirsten on the other side. She was from the Copenhagen side, and she was constantly looking at him, sort of. And he didn't really know about what to do with that, because he knew that she was engaged and supposed to be married to this very rich, whatever, son. And he was only a fisherman's son, so they just have for the day, and so he didn't really know what was going on with her. Why? Hello. Hi. So what happened was that during this evening here, we have this little, like, one of the guys from Copenhagen wanted to brag, and he talked about these crabs, and he said the children can catch them with a rope or whatever they're doing, right? I would go and dive into the water. So he dived into the water, and he was there for a long time. He came up without no crabs in the hand. And the guys from wherever was going, what's going on with these guys? And the more Copenhagen guys were crawling around there in the water. But then Jakob stood up, took off his t-shirt, folded, took off his jeans, stood there in shorts, and everybody, the guys are going, oh. And he dived into the water, and he was gone long and couldn't see him, and suddenly he came up, of course, with a crab in his hand. And he climbed up, and he stood there with the crab, and he was going like, hey guys, I'm a fisherman and I know how to deal with these things. But Kirsten, she just came up to him and said, don't stand with that crab, throw it in the water. And he was going, oh yeah, of course. So he threw it in the water. But they were standing very close to each other now. And the rest of the group was sort of, hey, we're going to see the sunset. And to see the sunset, you have to drive at least 10 kilometers or something like that. And everybody went off, but not Jakob and Kirsten. They were still standing there like, no, I find my way home. Yeah, cool. So they are both having a bike. So they drove around a little and went down to there was a little beach there, and when you throw a stone and it goes like, what do you call that?
Skimming.
Yeah. And of course he was good at that as well, and he was whacking, and there was all things going on. But after the sun was set and it was a little cold, she said, I'm gonna go home now. Yeah, I'll follow you home. So of course he followed her home. And as they stood there just by the gate to open it, of course, Jakob wanted, now it's time for you to kiss me, right? Now it's the first time. We've been doing this, and now I'll follow you home, so I will have a kiss. So he was just going like, wanted, and she was going like, what do you think this is? You know who I am? I am a rich daughter of the very famous lawyer in Copenhagen. I'm not going to give you a kiss. You're just a fisher boy. And he was going, what's going on here? And then they heard the sound of the ferry going into the harbor. And then she looked at him and said, if you can make that ferry turn 360 degrees, I will kiss you. And then she ran in. And Jakob was going, what is this? Nobody have ever seen that ferry. You go with a ferry straight, right? You never make a circle like the train, actually. But he started thinking, yeah, I can do it. So he made a note, walked in, put it in the briefcase, said, meet me at the harbor Friday for the last ferry coming in. I'll show you. So he went for the last ferry going to Hundested with a bag of beers. He went up there. He was his uncle at the steer wheel. And he said, I'm going to a party in Hundested. Yeah, cool. I have some beers. You want one? Yeah, of course. They started drinking. On the way to Hundested, his uncle said, it's strange that you're going to party on a Friday night. I've heard it was a party tomorrow. Is it Friday? Said Jakob. Oh my goodness. I'm going to go with you back again because the party is on Saturday. I forgot all about it. You want another beer? So he drank another beer and he made him drink. And on the way back, of course, what did the uncle have to do? Pee, because he's been drinking a lot of beers. Yes. So he walked down, there was some stairs, and Jakob had been standing on the steer wheels many times. So he heard the uncle open the door to the toilet, close it again, and then he looked. he looked for the white dress with the strawberries. That was Kirsten. And she was standing there. He could see her far away, looking out on the ferry, and he started pulling the steering wheels. And the ferry went like, turning right, turning right, turning right, turning right. Then he heard his uncle. What the fuck? What are you doing? And I was trying to come out of the door, hit his head off, climbing up the stairs, and the ferry went all the way here. And now he knew, Jakob, he knew it because he couldn't turn back. He had to go all the way, and his uncle came and gave him a slap. What are you doing, you crazy boy? And you just have to make it all the way 360 degrees. On the ferry, what you have to do is go down to the cars. There's cars and the motorbikes and all that. Then you can't see what's happening on the harbor. And Jakob was, of course, patiently waiting, and then he ran out. She was gone. There was no Kirsten to see, no kiss, no. And he was going like, now it's enough. I want that kiss. So he ran all the way out to where she lived, walked in, knocked on the door, and it was the lawyer himself who opened. What do you want? A kiss, said Jakob. From me. No, from your daughter. I really deserve a kiss. You know, I've been doing this, but... And the lawyer just said, you have to go home. Young man, my daughter is never going to kiss you because she is going to marry this rich, this neighbor. And if you don't do what I say, I can call the dog. He knew he had this very big dog. So Jakob just backed off. You heard the door slam. And on the first floor, he saw this white dress disappearing. Jakob never got that kiss. Not that kiss. But he learned one thing. It was that if he told that story together with Copenhagen girls or whatever was there was always somebody who said to him, Jakob, didn't you get that kiss? No, I didn't get that kiss. Oh, smiled. And then he got some kisses, I tell you. Pretty story.
Oh, great. Oh, that's so tough, isn't it? The status games. Yeah. Oh.
Uh-oh.
It's made me think of something. There's something there. So there's a man being chased by a tiger. And he's running, and the tiger is getting nearer and nearer. And he finds himself on the edge of a cliff. And the tiger's about to pounce. And he falls back, and he falls over the cliff. And as he's falling over the cliff, he grabs at a branch. And he holds onto the branch. And he looks up, and he sees the tiger ready. So he can't go up. So he looks down, thinking, if I fall, will I make it? Will I make it? There's another tiger ready to catch him if he falls. So he looks at the branch and he follows the branch all the way into the edge of the cliff. And then he sees some wild strawberries growing. And he reaches for the wild strawberry that is the most beautiful red. And it smells incredible. And he eats this wild strawberry. And it's the most beautiful strawberry he's ever had.
And so it is with strawberries. It's good. Thank you for that story. Are you going to end with a song or what?
Yeah. Or what? Or what?
What?
Well, there's a song that I'm gonna see if I can move from. Okay, so maybe you can sing as well. Rippling down the mountain, flowing from burn to love, from the diamond ice of winter to the summer flowering gorse. Oh, oh, on the ferry to the islands in the splashing, tossing waves, through the ocean's currents in the fishing boats that sail. Into our hearts, into our hands, into our lives, into our lands, for everybody in troubled times. Royal rigs and stations, railways, tramways, roads, changing cars and buses, and energy lighting floats. Down in politics, discouraging from knowing what's going wrong. Into understanding, a future will be one. A smile across our country spreading. Into our hearts, into our hands, into our lives, into our lands, for everybody in troubled times. In the stones, in my bones, in the hills, in the forest, in the skies, in the gloaming, in the rain, in the rippling down the mountain, flowing from burn to love, through the stained glass windows, the synagogue of Mars, the old mine and the shipyard, the factory and the mill, power of people, the courage and the will. The grass is growing through our old ways. Our feeling spreads its wings and rises. Let's dance into a new tale.
Love it. Oh, thank you, Harley. It's been wonderful. Thank
Oh,
you for a very good duet. Take good care out in the world, and I'll see you on Thursday.
you will. You will.
Yeah, thank you so much. All
All right.
right, take care.